to another Ukraine update. We got some interesting things coming at you, not only at the front line of Ukraine, but also deep within Ukraine. So without further ado, let's jump into today's video. But before we do, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And let's get into the video. So this city is very close to the Belarusian border was struck. A building in this city was struck. Now Ukraine claims that the building was basically an event going on where drone companies would come and get contracts with the Ukrainian government, and people were there basically viewing these Ukrainian drones. However, Russia claims a different story. Russia claims that this was a top officers here, including the SBU and Ukrainian security services that were here, still viewing the drones, but it wasn't like such an open event. And they also say Polish and Baltic officers were here, and Russia claims a 60% death. Not 60%, 60 people died, I believe it was. Personally, with the Russian claim, if you actually look at the footage beforehand, this doesn't really look like it would be where the top military people were, especially since Ukraine announced the event. So they could be right. They could be right. And of course, I'm not just saying because the Russians report something they're wrong, because that just goes against logic. That does not mean that's the case at all. However, they could be right. However, from what just I think of it personally, I don't think there's like some secret with a bunch of NATO, because if you get NATO officials in here, not only would that kind of get Russia pissed off at NATO, because NATO, when the documents were leaked and it revealed that NATO special forces were in Ukraine, Russia got super mad. So why like publicize something that NATO officials are going to be in? I mean, not NATO officers from Poland and the Baltics. So I personally think it's up to you guys. Like, you guys can decide what story you want to believe. There's no proof on either side like that. No like tangible evidence per the Ukrainian side and per the Russian side. So yeah, that's basically what happened here, and that is something I don't know the answer to. I'm leaning more on the fact that it was just a missile strike. It was not a drone strike, it was a missile strike on this event that was going on, and that NATO officials or NATO officers were not there. However, I could be wrong. I'm not saying just because the Russians say it, they're wrong, because that does not make any sense whatsoever. Let's move on to Kherson. And basically, nothing really happening here. Russia did post some videos of them basically clearing out, doing a clearing mission to make sure no Ukrainians were there. And they have videos, which I showed on my last update, I believe. Oh, if I didn't, here's a video right now of Ukrainian captured, basically captured homes that were there when the Ukrainians had that bridgehead on Kherson. So nothing really happening here. Just side note real quick. Putin did visit Rostov on the Don, Oblast, but he visited the general staff. So it was the generals there. A lot of high-ranking Russian generals were there, and he visited there. Don't know what's going to happen. When Putin visited last time, he basically gave these Russian soldiers a cross from like a church, and something to that effect. I may have the story a bit off, but it was something religious. Basically, some people think that's the reason Ukraine is failing in their counteroffensive, which I kind of found that kind of dubious. But okay, come on. Anyway, to Robotyne, where Ukraine is there's still battles going on in Robotyne as the Ukrainians and Russians fight at the center of Robotyne, and there is literally footage, and here's the footage right now, of Ukrainians and it was geolocated either here or here around this area, the center area. So that's basically what is happening in Robotyne. No significant advances, actually none advances that we can see on the map as of yet. However, this map did update and show the trenches that the Russians have, the fortifications that the Russians have in Robotyne. So basically these are Russian fortifications. Robotyne is important, and I'm not going to get into details because this is an analysis. However, if Ukraine takes Robotyne, this will be bad for Russia, because these fortifications, this main one and these all on open ground, so all Ukraine really has to do is shell them until they leave, especially with cluster munitions. And the cluster munitions, some people are saying doing kind of a good effect on here, and this would just be bad for the Russians to keep their position, so they would most likely withdraw to the first line of defense. And once Ukraine reaches the first line of defense, then that's when the real counteroffensive, not when the counteroffensive starts, because it's been going on for quite a while with limited gains. However, that's when the real battle starts, and that's when you can see major Ukrainian pushes throughout the Ukrainian occupied regions. Or that's when you can see Ukraine kind of mess up and Russia do a counterattack and take back all this land. Ukraine is trying to rush because their Independence Day is coming soon, which they're trying to rush in, basically sending a bunch of forces to get victory. They already have Regina, but they would want more before the Independence Day. I find that a bit risky because you can be careless and do something that you'll regret, and you do not want to show on your Independence Day, like a massive defeat, because your generals were too caught up with getting land by Independence Day that they didn't really think of logistics and good strategy and stuff like that. We've seen that throughout history where that can cause some issues. Now with Regina, it's not what happened today, because really nothing really happened today. Fighting, of course, but nothing really changed. It's what's going to happen, according to many. So Ukraine basically is moving a bunch of forces here, and from what we've seen from the latest geo-located footage, Ukraine has established some type of artillery dominance around here. Russia still has it, but if you look at and unfortunately this map doesn't show these geolocated footages, but if you look at the Ukrainian artillery strikes around here and the Russian artillery strikes, the Ukrainian and drone strikes as well, the Ukrainians have way more of them, and that's because Ukraine is trying to go on the offensive. So what Ukraine is basically going to do, what I've heard from some people, is, I don't have the marker with me today, but Ukraine's basically going to take, they've sent tanks in, and this is a high quality tank division, battalion, according to some. And they are basically just going to do a push through this region. They're going to shoot for Novodonetsk. They're going to shoot for this village over here. They're going to shoot for Perutne. And as we've seen, Ukraine has failed with their pushes before here. But this like their final push. It can bring good success to Ukraine, but if Ukraine fails this, you're probably not going to see any more important things happening in Regina, at least for the ending of the finishing of this counteroffensive, because Ukraine feels that that's like, I believe they're going to be their final push in Regina. But if they do succeed in accomplishing their objectives, which is to clear all this, then they can start, like the situation in Robotyne. If they take Robotyne, then they can start heading towards the front line, the first line of defense. Obviously, this is just speculation, because in war, there's no really facts to what's going to happen next in war. So, basically, let's move on to the Bakhmut front. And basically, nothing really has happened at Bakhmut. There have been reports, and this is video footage of it, so this was legit, of Ukrainian assault around here. However, it failed. I believe it was around here. However, it failed, and the Russians reported that the Ukrainians lost a ton of armored fighting vehicles and Bradleys. However, the video footage that you can see from here isn't any Ukrainian vehicles getting damaged. It's just shells going and busting and exploding around the Ukrainian vehicles. So obviously, this wasn't a success because Ukraine failed on this thing. But Russia's claim to Bradleys and a lot of Bradleys being lost and a lot of armored fighting vehicles isn't backed up by any footage of that. So if we go to the Kupiansk front, and this is where things get very serious for the Ukrainians, Russia has basically encircled this village. And basically, this road leads to this road, which leads to Kupiansk. And if you'll remember correctly, in 2022, Ukraine liberated Kupiansk. And it's getting very close to that date. I believe that date was September 10th. So if Russia can even start the Battle of Kupiansk before close to that date, or in Ukraine's nightmare scenario, actually liberate the town, how Russia will call it, or just take control of the town around that date. That'll just be kind of ironic for the Ukrainians, and Russia is making significant gains. It's slow. It's a war of attrition, but it's significant as well. This map has not updated, but the Russian forces all around here. So this is very serious for the Ukrainians, and they've actually taken some of their forces and put them on this front. Now, this is just a kind of theory that could be the case. I'm not saying I believe in the theory, but this could be a distraction for the Russian offensive in Sumy, the Sumy region. This could be. I'm not saying it is. Personally, there's no facts or even suggestions that would verify that theory. However, Russia is building up a 200,000 man force, according to many, to storm into the Sumy region, which would effectively, if done effectively, would basically end Ukraine's whole entire counteroffensive. And why, or end it to any real effect? Because Ukraine would have to pull soldiers, unless they're okay with them getting this close to Kyiv once again. They would have to pull soldiers from the front of the front lines here and send them to the Sumy region. That also has a risk of them being bombed while going there. Unless Ukraine has some reserves that we don't know about, but as far as I am concerned, they would have to pull soldiers from there, and that could lead to a complete Russian counteroffensive. And that could really go poorly for the Ukrainians. And I'm not saying this would happen, but that could go with the Russians occupying all this too. Because of that one simple strategy. And one simple, actually, attack. So, especially if that attacks with 200,000 men, that's going to require a lot of... You can say Russia's incompetent and stuff like that. Honestly, I don't really buy that 100%. Of course, they do stupid moves. A lot of countries do stupid moves on the battlefield every once in a while. However, 200,000 men, I don't care if these were men from, I don't know, Hungary, trying to invade Ukraine. Ukraine would still need a significant force to stop them. So that's basically it, guys, with today's update. Again, a lot going on, and just a funny note, PR stunt Ukraine pulled, and basically the Russian, I believe it was FSB headquarters, had a Ukrainian flag waving on it today. PR stunt really doesn't mean anything, but it's kind of funny when you actually see the footage. Again, I believe it was FSB, but I know it was some type of Russian federal building. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching. Make sure like, comment, and subscribe. Again, YouTube, I do not condone any violence of any kind. I'm simply reporting, and there must be peace in the world. So thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.